Welcome back to this Transitioning Humanitarians live with Vicky. Hi, Vicky.
Hi, Asel. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, good morning, and good evening, depending what time you're watching us.
Yes, hello to everyone around the world. So, the topic that we wanted to talk about in the continuation of the preparation month is the topic of success. And that becomes crucial because that could be a source of pressure, a source of stress, but also maybe a source of indicator as to whether we're going in the right direction or not. Do we really feel successful or not? So that's a topic that we wanted to talk about as part of your preparation for transitioning, so you get clear around it, right? So that's why, Vicky, let's start with the how we usually like look at success, maybe as a society,
Mhm.
like humanitarians, and how we could look at it differently if we want to. What would you say to that?
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. And I think one of the first things that would be useful to talk about is in terms of definition of success. How do we define success? And it might seem as an easy task, but when we think about it a little deeper, we realize that so much of the definition that we have is a definition we have taken from the outside, whether it is from the society, whether it is from the organization we work for, etc. So I think really I think one of the first tasks is really to get to the core of how do I define success? What does it mean for me? And also to go into the depth into is it really how I really define success? Because just thinking about, for example, and I'm trying to go back a little bit to my past when I was actively working in the humanitarian field, when I used to define, I'm not successful, I'm not successful, this is not success. I will only be successful when I reach this position. I will
Yeah.
only be successful when I reach this position. And of course, what happened when I reached that position, I was not happy as well because that was the wrong definition of success. I was only thinking of certain in a very limited way. And I think what we are seeing is that many of our colleagues are unfortunately also doing these kinds of mistakes in terms of defining success. And this is why we thought really nailing down and defining how does success look like and feel like for me is really, really important. What
Yeah.
about, how do you see this, Asel?
Yes, absolutely. I'm also like thinking about how people could think about success. So I see there are three ways that you can look at it, and one is feeling part, right? So feeling successful does not come from achieving something or like having something, even though our brains want to believe that's the case. That's why we try to get to that position, try to be financially successful, or whatever the things we try to get to. And then only realizing that those things only temporarily, and then we start feeling again not successful, or we start feeling like we need to get to the next thing. So that's why the feeling part is you can create that already now. The question then is, why are you not feeling successful now? And that could be
Mm-hmm.
an interesting
Mm-hmm.
question to explore, right? What is it that you're missing that makes you feel like if you have XYZ, then you're successful? And the other question that I love to ask my clients is that what will you think or believe about yourself once you are successful? Like a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people say, well, I will be then believing that I can do this, or I will be then proud of myself, right? But those things you can
Mm-hmm.
already feel and think about already without having anything to prove that. So that's why it's interesting also to see, why are you doubting yourself that you can't really do those things, right? Why do you need the confirmation so that you can then believe something about yourself? So that's why this is like an exercise that you can do for yourself to see, why am I not feeling successful? So that would be one part.
Mm-hmm.
The second part is the part about, like, in terms of your transitioning, what is it that needs to happen absolutely for you then to say, my transitioning was successful? Right?
Mm-hmm.
So that could be like very pragmatic things like, I don't know, in my case, it was replicating my salary, having more
Mm-hmm.
time with my loved ones, living in the same place as they
Yeah.
are. So these were the indicators of my success like of the transitioning, but yours could be something else. So you can think about in those terms. And then the
Sorry.
third one is, I think, like really feeling like fulfilling job or
Mhm.
fulfilling something, an impact,
Yeah.
or whatever the thing that you feel like makes you feel like, oh, I'm really doing the success, or I'm really feeling like this is what I'm meant to do, or this is how I'm meant to live my life, or whatever the thing that makes you then feel like successful. So I see in those three ways that you can look at success.
Mhm.
And what I love, Vicky, about you saying that we all need to define our own success. And the way that
Yeah.
I have defined it for myself recently and more is, so I have several criteria for me to feel like I'm successful. And one is it shouldn't cost anyone's suffering or my own suffering. I think
Okay.
that's
Yeah. Yeah.
that's one of the things that I really need to like learn from life.
Yeah.
But what I
Mm-hmm.
essentially realize is that if I'm not suffering for the things that I really want to do, and I'm not costing my family time or my loved ones time, like I'm not sacrificing, then that means I'm successful.
Mm-hmm.
And that
Yeah.
alone, to do that was not easy, but I feel like I'm like
Mhm.
coming to that. And the other one is really like doing things that really represent me of who I am,
Yeah.
and without like feeling like I'm compromising my integrity or I'm not really doing things the way
Mhm.
that I want to do. It's not right, right? So without all of those things, if I'm doing the things that I really love doing, that means I'm successful. And the third one is that I am successful if I'm really feeling like free in doing all the things I want to do,
Yeah.
like feeling like in charge and doing things the way that I want to do. So that for me also represents success. And that's maybe not the definition that many people would agree, and that's okay. But I really
Yeah.
want like to check with myself that
Yeah.
this is when I
Mm-hmm.
feel successful. So you can define for
Yeah.
yourself how you want your success to look like, and you can already start living that now. What would you say?
Yeah, yeah. Thank you very much, and thank you for your openness about sharing the how you define success, because it's really crucial. Because, and I will get to what is how I define success. It's very similar, but not exactly the same. And I really want to highlight the fact that sometimes we see colleagues comparing themselves to others and
Mm,
saying, I'm not successful, but I look at that person and they are successful because some artificial criteria that is usually societal criteria is like, okay, they have the family, they have the car, they have this and this and this and this and
yeah.
all the lists that is somehow artificially given without the internal check. And so this is really, and it, like, if we accept this definition of success, to us we somehow also start comparing ourselves, and that's obviously not a helpful way, because it doesn't help anything, this comparison exercise. That's why it's so important to really define for ourselves what is the success. And as you are mentioning, it's really sometimes it's very different from what the society very often, or different layers of society expect us to be. So if I can contribute with my definition, for me it's as I said, similar to yours. It's really the freedom of mind and freedom of activity, that I am in control of my own schedule, at least to 90% or 95%, to a very high degree. I can decide how my day goes, whether I'm going to stay here or go to the office, or when I'm going to take a holiday. So this is very much something that gives me a sense of success, and that's something very important. There is also for me it's alignment with my values, because I have realized that even in my previous assignment, that has been a very very good assignment, and it's also one of these
Mm,
things that I had been aspiring to do, and finally when I reached that, it wasn't, I realized it's not really the thing for me, because my internal values were very frequently in clash with what
mm,
I was doing. And that means that I was feeling miserable and not successful. So this is also the alignment with one's own values is my definition of success. Of course, there is also some financial remuneration that is important, and that's also definition of success. But it's also, as you mentioned, time spent with my relatives and with my loved ones. And definitely that's a great indicator of, at least for me, and I believe for a lot of people, that this is I'm living a successful life, because in the past I didn't have it and I craved so much. So I think what we are mentioning is really reiterating that it's important that you sit and define your own success and check back with
Mhm.
it, to which extent, yeah,
Exactly.
you're
And the
aligned with
one
it.
thing, exactly. And one thing that I was also thinking about is that in that process of defining, I see a lot of us humanitarians are asking oftentimes the questions that don't really bring us further. And some of the questions that I
Hmm.
observe people ask is, will this work? Or
Hmm.
will I be able to do this transitioning, right? And those questions usually have the answer of probably not, because if the way that we are asking them sounds like we already believe that we're not going to do that, or we already believe
Yeah,
that we're not sure, right? And it's okay to be not sure, but asking those questions won't really bring us further and won't really like contribute to the useful conversation with ourselves, or like useful reflection, I guess. So that's why the questions that you could really ask that have been very helpful for me and my clients is usually, how will I make this work? In what way will I make it work that feels good to me, that feels right for me,
yeah,
that feels aligned to me, right? um, what are the ways that I can explore using my resources already without feeling like I have to this, or I have to that, or I should, or whatever the things that we then like block ourselves to our transitioning. So that's why always think about how you can approach things from you being the person who can make things happen, instead of like abdicating responsibility to, oh, will this be successful, as if like someone will come
yeah,
over and make it successful,
yeah,
right? Whatever that success means, of course, right? So that's why I think
yeah,
have being conscious as to what is your responsibility in it, and how do you want to approach it, and
yeah,
believing yourself that you are the person who can make things work. Because like the most successful formula that I see a lot of humanitarians have is that we are so good at doing all the actions to get to what we want. That's how we went to the
mhm,
humanitarian work. That's how we achieved
yeah,
the jobs that we achieved, right? So we were so willing to like try everything to get to what we want, and that's usually how like success works, it seems, is the willingness to try out just so many different ways that we know, because we really
yeah,
believe that we can do that work, we really believe in the cause, we really believe that that's the thing that we really crave for. So that's the success formula, it seems, that works everywhere. So knowing
yeah,
that, then what are you going to do to get to your goal without feeling like, oh, will I lose this, will this happen to me, or
yes,
all the things that we don't really know the answer to anyway, because we can't predict the future. So that's
yeah,
why I really want you to think about like being in charge of how you will make it work in the way that you want to, and make it successful, and what are the resources you need from yourself, from others, to get to that place. What would you say?
yeah. Yeah, I like the formula, and here I think we are getting to the second stage. Once you've defined what success, how does success look like and feel like, what how do you get to this? And I really like the formula what you say, which is so true. The belief, because very often we, and I think we mentioned it a few times, when we are doing projects for others whilst being humanitarians, we try many times, we try
Mhm.
different ways, and we have the belief that we can do it. So when there is a project, we try many times, but yet when it comes to our lives, often we have this questioning, as you mentioned, like, will I be successful? Will I be able to do it? So suddenly, somehow, there is a shift in the belief system and in the formula, that is very interesting. Not really sure, but clearly this is something that needs to be there and maybe needs to be developed in order for us to say, okay, yes, I'm going to try to do it. This is where I'm going, and I'm going to try. And important thing that you mentioned, I'm going to try in different ways until I get there. Yeah.
Exactly, yes. And also the other thing that I'm thinking about is that maybe because we've been so comfortable in our previous work or in our
Mm-hmm.
humanitarian world, I mean, even though we know that there are so many challenges, but somehow we believe that we're comfortable in there because we know like what to do, we know what the situation is, we know how to make risks, how to go and on missions, right? So we like know things, even though that's a very challenging thing to do, but somehow we know things. And then if we go to the another place that's unknown to us, all of a sudden we start
Yeah.
feeling like, oh, we don't have this, we don't have that, or our skills won't be valid, or our experience won't be valid. And then we start somehow like so discrediting, discounting
Mm-hmm.
all of our successes and abilities that we already have. And then it feels like as if we are totally, like metaphorically nude or naked without any tools to go
Yeah.
to the unknown
Yes.
territory, right? So that's why I was even talking to a humanitarian today about this, and she was telling me that, well, all the 10 years of my experience, somehow she like discounted it, and then she feels like she's starting all over from scratch, right?
Yes.
And that's so not the case,
Yes.
because if anything, we have now more tools to be
Yeah.
successful than ever before. And
Absolutely.
our
Yeah.
brain somehow then says, no, 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 that's not true, because we're so afraid of the unknown
Yeah.
that we're ready to advocate with everything that we have to stay where we don't want to stay.
Yeah.
And therefore, we will start questioning, like, will I be successful, or doubting ourselves, and not really like using all of our resources and experience that we have to amplify and to say, if we can do this, then we can even do more
Yeah.
success, right? Instead of doing that, many of us then start like withholding ourselves or
Yes.
stopping ourselves and saying,
Mm-hmm.
no, 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 we rather stay because this is what we know. So that's
Yeah.
why what we are really advocating is that don't discount all of what you have already, uh, so that you can just give in to your fearful brain.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, look at other alternatives and then say, how can you use what you have created already and then make it even more
Yeah.
successful, whatever that means for you.
Yeah, thank you, Asel. Absolutely, and this is frequently happening. And since this is the application year, what I would like to suggest, literally, and I do this exercise with my clients as well, literally to to ask my clients every single position they've been in and name this all the successes they had, because we forget, because things we have done 10 years ago was 10 years ago, but we need to recall and write all the successes. And I can tell you that when people look at the list, they are amazed, like, is this actually me? Yes, this is you. Because we tend to forget, because our minds, I think it's development focuses on the negative to try to protect us, right? The focus is on the instead forgets about all the amount of successes we have had. So literally, I would encourage every colleague who is going through this, write down, take all the jobs you had and write down all the successes you had, and you will be amazed at how much you will realize how many successes you've had and how many qualities and skills and everything you actually have to offer. Because as you are saying, very often it feels like, oh, I'm going to the new field, but that I don't have anything to offer. But exactly as you say, the opposite is the true, because the longer experience you had, the more skills, the more experiences, the more interactions you had, and so much more to offer. So it's really just a matter of, you know, and shifting this and making it visible to the other side. So definitely another way of looking at success, and success we have had and success that we are planning to have in the future.
Yes, exactly. And one other thing that maybe I want to share, like from my own practice of how I do things, if you really want to adopt that as well, is one of the things that I do a lot on daily basis is imagining the person who's me, who can handle all of those challenges, who can be the
Mhm.
person who can make things successful. How is that person? How is me that person who does that, right? How is that person who makes these things in the successful way that I imagine it should be successful this way? And reinforcing that personality like on daily basis. And that I feel like grows my capacity to hold possibilities, right? Because otherwise my brain has so many tools to like reinforce the fear part, and that's okay, it's the brain's job to do. But
Yeah.
I also know that I have other tools like trusting myself, like knowing my
Mhm.
abilities, knowing my experience, knowing what I have already done, knowing all the things that I like risked in the past. And because a lot of the times like some humanitarians come to me and say, well, I would like to do business but I'm not good at risking. But I'm like, come on, if anyone who's good at risking is humanitarians, right? I mean, how many
Exactly.
war zones we went to knowing that we could die, and we did that anyway. And why did we do that? Because we really believe in the cause. We really believe that we could help those
Yeah.
people, right? So that's the reason we risked it. I don't think even the bankers can risk that much. I mean, no
Hmm.
offense to bankers, but do you know what I mean? Like people in the business, what I want to say, right? So that's why I
Yeah.
really want like my brain to know that whenever I'm embodying that personality, then I know that I can have the possibilities to exist and the fear to exist, and then I can focus on the possibilities because my brain still has this in the background of yes, we can do this, we can do that because we've done this,
Yeah.
we've done this, and that way I can have more of the things to achieve rather than past focused of oh my god, I only did this, or this won't work, or this won't be accepted by others. I don't really focus on any of that. So in
Hmm.
other words, I
Yeah.
never focus on like competition or all the people outside, or like market is what the market is doing, or I don't do
Hmm.
any of that. I just focus on being the person who I want to be, to work on the things that I want to work, and then continue working on that. And if there are like failures and the problems on the way to success, I just know that that's unfortunately
Yeah.
part of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
sucks, but that's how it is.
Yeah, that's a part of it. And as you say, we find several ways. If we don't manage the
Yeah.
first time, let's find a different way to do the second time. And yes, and very, very well so. And so what I'm hearing really is that um something that we need to redefine the success as we see it, in order for us to be truly fulfilled, to feel truly fulfilled, and to be satisfied in life, and not to really take on somebody else's definition of success. It doesn't mean that you might not have the same definition of success, but just do the internal exercise to feel if this is really what's going to make you feel. And so always to find resources within oneself, as opposed to really going out and spending time thinking about somebody else's success, or how somebody else gets there or doesn't get there, because that's it's a little bit of a wasted thinking and wasted and negative feeling. So rather best to reinforce our belief in myself and in the capacity, and also do the evidence, go and search for the evidence, because you will find so much evidence to confirm that you are successful, that you've been successful until now, and then from that position of being reinforced to go
Yeah.
forward. At least that's really what I'm hearing that we've been
Yes.
discussing.
Exactly. And the other thing that maybe is also helpful is that I can't stress how important um, decision is.
Mm,
And oftentimes I think of decisions not even like in terms of I have to make them so that I can choose one or the other, but more like proactively make them, meaning that I decide that this month or this year, this is what I create. This is the success I want to create for myself and for my clients, right? And then I go towards making that happen rather than like waiting for life to present me with
yes,
options for
yes.
then me choosing which one to go for. Do you know what I mean? So that's why I'm like, especially this year, I'm finding this ability of ours as humans so powerful that we can decide that this is a success I want to see, not
Mm-hmm.
because I have to or because
Yeah,
then I will look good in the society's eyes, but rather for my own fulfillment, for my own like
yeah,
craving or whatever the thing that I want to achieve. And then I just say that this is a success I want to create with my own life, with my clients. And therefore, these are the ways that I'm
yeah,
going to try things out. And this is how I want to
yeah,
get to it. And that way, it feels even like more rejuvenating or revigorating
yeah,
because you always feel like you're in charge of how you can create things. It becomes almost like you are in a very nice lab trying different things out and then
yeah.
also getting paid for it and then feeling like, oh my God, is this my life or not? So
Yes,
that type
yes.
of really the success I really want people to experience, and that is available to you.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. And so for me, really what to say to this, maybe reinforce the idea that as you're defining success for yourself, going to the feeling, how do you feel?
Yeah,
Because that's really imagine the feeling, because that's really what is eventually it's all about. It's not about the figures and numbers. It's about the feeling that you'll have. And that's, I think, really the most important, because that's what we are searching for, because we are doing all these things in a hope that we will feel good and successful and great. Well, go into the
yeah,
feeling and feel it, and see what it's telling you. So that's, I
yeah.
would summarize it for myself this way.
Yes, absolutely. I love that as well. But in the end of the day, I think the real message here is we can feel that anytime, right? I mean, I
Mhm,
was talking to one of my clients today, and she was saying that, well, I'm so successful because I'm breathing. And I love that as well, right? So it's like it can mean so many things for many people.
mhm,
We could be feeling successful, spending time with our children, with our
yeah,
loved ones, right? So we have the luxury to do that. It could mean
mhm,
so many things. So if we really wanted to, we could even have that feeling all the time, every day, if we
mhm,
wanted to. So
yeah,
that's why, like, recognizing and reminding ourselves that that's always an availability, that's like really a crucial thing. And then if we
mhm,
want to get curious to create other successes just for the sake of creating them because it's, I don't know, it feels contributing to society or it feels good to us, it feels like we're doing something different, then we can always like create our own indicators of what we want that success to look
yeah,
like, what the
mhm,
measurements are, and then we just go towards creating them. And that's also fun and amazing way to spend our lives on this earth. So that's why I guess you have all the tools available to try out your own version and you can let
yes,
us know. Yeah. So
yeah.
any last words, Vicky, before we finish for today?
I think the last words would be, if you would like to define your success or work on definition of your success, or getting, being more specific about it, feel free to message us, and we'll be happy to accompany you.
Yes, absolutely. And also, we should remind you all that 27th um, of every month, we're meeting with people
Yeah.
to see how the application process is going, right? Anything
Hmm.
unclear, or you want to ask questions, or you all feel stuck in some parts of the journey and you want to get coaching on it, so you let us know as well. And we would love to
Hmm.
meet you in that meeting as well. So,
Yeah.
having said that, thank you, Vicky. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Asel. Thank you, everyone. See you hopefully next Thursday at the same time.
Yes, exactly. So, have an amazing week, you all, and weekend, and we'll speak to you next week.